Hello! Today we will be demoing IBM Strategic Workforce Planning Accelerator in Workday's Adaptive Insights. This tool is designed to provide HR and financial planners, analysts, and administrators with a holistic view of their organization, the ability to do in-time scenario planning, and a centralized platform to make data-driven planning decisions to fill gaps both internally and externally. The solution is split into three major pillars: enhanced workforce analytics, scenario planning and driver-based forecasting, and action planning. This demo will address these three pillars by moving through a dashboard that shows the culmination of the KPIs, sheets, and accounts that make this model. Before we move into the dashboard, two configuration notes. 1. The dimensions outlined in this solution are based on common organizational trends. The dimensions and level structure can be adjusted to meet the organization's structures and needs. 2. While this solution is built with integrations from Workday, it is a standalone solution and can work with integrations from other systems or manual data loads. We will be moving through this solution through the perspective of multiple organizational roles that will be elaborated on as we move through the demo. Please note that some users will prefer to use the individual sheets, reports, or KPIs to perform analytics and make data-driven decisions, rather than dashboard. That can be accessed here. In the top right-hand corner, we can see that we are in the version 2022 Annual Headcount Plan, loaded at the end of 2021 as part of the annual planning process. If we click on it, we see subsequent quarterly plans that users can revise based on scenario outcomes in the model. On the top line, there are a series of time, level, and dimension filters that adjust the entire dashboard based on their selections. These are adjustable to meet the organization's needs. Under the level filter, a user can choose to look at an individual legal entity. In this case, we will be acting as an HR or financial analyst, understanding the current state of Legal Entity 1. These KPIs, as well as almost all KPIs in the dashboard, are drillable. If the user would like to see the cost center breakdown of Legal Entity 1, they will click on the KPI and select Cost Center to see the headcount by cost center breakdown, which can then be further drilled down to the worker level. Throughout the page, there are a few other headcount breakdowns that are configurable to the organization's and users' needs. Lastly, there is an employee movement chart that shows more sophisticated KPIs. Currently configured are turnover and hire rates. Organizations can include additional KPIs such as new hire failure rate and mobility rate. Again, this is drillable. The user can look at turnover rates by the dimensions configured. Here, the user will drill into turnover rate by job profile to better understand which job profiles have the highest turnover in the organization, aiding them in making data-driven decisions to fill headcount gaps. Next, we will move into our Cost of Workforce tab. This will most likely be leveraged by financial planners, analysts, and admins. All data in this tab is based off compensation data stored in the organization's HR system. Unlike FP&A models, it does not store true payroll data, but is an assumption of costs based on worker compensation. The first model shows the cost of workforce in the organization for hourly and salaried workers. This is driven by a modeled sheet of the current workforce seen in the next tab. Contingent workers can also be included to meet the organization's needs. The model also includes an open position cost based on the compensation midpoint and expected hire date of the open positions driven by an open position model. Then there are assumptions for benefit and merit increase costs. These assumptions are level and cost center specific. The user can choose a specific level and cost center to input assumption percentages. Here we will select sublevel 1.1 CA and cost center SF1. We will then go over to January of 2022 and input a 10% merit increase percent for salaried employees and click Save and see how it affects the cost of workforce sheet. There is also an additional KPI on this tab showing the average cost of workforce by cost center. This is also drillable and can help users better understand which cost centers have the least and greatest workforce cost. Next, we will move into the People and Skills Demand tab. This page is where HR planners, analysts, and administrators can create hypothetical headcount changes and look at them in relation to the current headcount and the planned budgeted headcount for the year to enhance their decision-making process. Our top-line KPI shows three different headcount trends. It shows the position headcount based on anticipated hire dates for open positions, the current headcount based on the current workforce, and the total forecast based on inputs into the forecasting sheet. The forecasting sheet operates similarly to the cost of workforce assumption sheet, where users can create headcount scenarios, anticipate outcomes, and action plan based on the data in the system around those outcomes. We will go into sublevel 1.1 CA and cost center SF2 to make a forecast assumption. The sheet is showing the current headcount, open position headcount based on anticipated hire date, and can input a number to add to the headcount in the headcount override row, or a percentage to input into the headcount in the target growth row. We will input 25% into target growth for January of 2022 and click Save. We can now see the effect of increasing the headcount at the sublevel 1.1 CA Cost Center SF2 intersection gives us a total forecast of 6, creating a gap of 1 headcount that we can then look to fill either internally or externally. Moving down the sheet, there is a row for organizations to store data for the budgeted headcount plan decided at the end of 2021 for 2022. This can change from version to version to reflect the current working plan the user is in, as well as be leveraged as a comparison to the scenario created above. Additionally, there is a row for an assumed turnover rate for users to leverage in scenarios planning. This rate can be based off organizational trends and input into the row. And lastly, there is a cost of increase reflecting how much the additional headcount will cost an organization based off average compensation in the level cost center intersection. At the bottom of the page is a skills demand by job profile. This allows users to understand the skills necessary to work in each job profile. The user can drill into the job profile to see the specific skills needed and use this to best understand whether headcount gap can be filled internally based on the current workforce's skills or externally. Next, we move into our Internal Supply tab. This tab can be leveraged by HR and financial planners, analysts, and admins to understand the detailed landscape of the organization's current workforce. The first sheet on the page is the current worker model. This can be adjusted to add headcount or change aspects of individual workers to see the downstream effects, or just be used to view the current worker roster. Below, we have utilization stored for organizations that can provide this data. This can be leveraged by analysts, admins, and planners to understand utilization by different dimensional breakdowns. It can also be used to identify high-performing workers with low utilization that can potentially be moved to fill headcount gaps. We will now move into our affinity matrix. This tab is designed to help HR planners and talent development admins better understand workers' skills overlap with other job profiles in the system. The Worker Job Profile Skills Affinity sheet looks at the skills mapped to the workers in the HR system versus the skills mapped to successfully function in a job profile, and analyzes the percentage overlap between the two. This concept can also be applied to work experiences, competencies, or other talent matrix tied to workers and other organizing dimensions such as business lines or positions to understand percentage overlap. We can see with Worker 1 that they have 50% of the skills required to successfully work as an HR analyst, 60% of the skills required to successfully work as an Engineer 1, and so on. This helps organizations better understand how much upskilling or training they will need to invest to move a worker, if any. Additionally, if the organization does not have detailed skills mapped to a worker, but just the job profiles, users can look at the affinity from job profile to job profile and understand the overlap between the two. This will allow them to assume that if a worker is in a job profile with a high affinity to another job profile, they will likely require little investment to move them. This tab helps the organization make data-driven decisions around talent mobility. Next, we move into the Open Positions and External Supply tab. After looking to fill headcount gaps internally, HR planners, admins, and analysts can look to the external pipeline to fill gaps. The first sheet on this page shows the open positions and job requisitions. This sheet drives open position headcount and cost throughout the dashboard and helps the users better understand the pipeline. Users can add or remove positions and requisitions from this sheet to see the downstream effects. Below is the candidate pipeline. This helps organizations better understand where they are in terms of filling open positions and headcount gaps. Lastly, there are two KPIs, hire rate and average time to hire by cost center. These two KPIs inform users on past hiring trends and provide estimated time needed to fill a position based on past recruiting efforts. The last tab, titled Gap Analysis, is an overall summary of headcounts, scenario forecasts, and gaps created from those forecasts. These can drill into different points in the level hierarchy to better understand the breakdown, using this as a reference point to the overall state of the scenario. This concludes our demo. IBM Strategic Workforce Accelerator. For any questions, please reach out to Michael Shifley and or Guy Maisels. Thank you for watching.